Barita Investments just got an A plus rating from CariCRIS. CariCRIS is the regional credit ratings agency. So think Standard & Poor's and Moody's and Fitch, but for the Caribbean, that's CariCRIS. And they have now rated Barita A plus. I don't know if you could get any higher than that. A plus sound like top of top. I'm not sure what CariCRIS's rating is. I know some of them go A plus plus plus. But CariCRIS is the Caribbean's leading credit rating agency. This is a big deal. It could open up new opportunities for Barita. And so joining us now is the CEO of Barita Investments, Ramon Small-Ferguson. Welcome back, Ramon.
Hi, Kalila. Always good to be here. How are you?
I'm good, but not as good as you, coming on the heels of this news. Tell us what an investment grade rating means for Barita.
Sure. So, for us, Kalila, I think the rating really does a few things. One is that it's another step in validating to our various stakeholders, whether it's our investors, our customers, all stakeholders really who face Barita, validating independently our financial strength, our risk management, and our governance. It really speaks to our stability and really adds credibility to our business because, of course, CariCRIS has independently come in, looked around, really done rigorous analysis of our business and decided to give us this investment grade rating. So it's a good thing all around for us. From our perspective, we think it may open up opportunities for us. For example, there may be opportunities for us to diversify and broaden our funding base. CariCRIS is a regional ratings agency. So what it's really done is set a standard for our business, for people even external to Jamaica to look on and have a sense of our level of credit worthiness. So I think it's a good thing for the business for sure.
So how do you plan to leverage this to raise further capital?
So, what I'd say is that, how I describe the business is that our inventory is money, right? We're in the money business in the same way that a manufacturing entity will take raw material and transform it into finished goods and sell it, right? Our business is really connecting money, right? So we always look at strategies to broaden and deepen our access to funding. So from our perspective, this really opens up those options to us. It opens up more glaring options in the region for us to raise capital, given that we have now been benchmarked. We have been no stranger to the capital markets, particularly since our acquisition in 2018. We have done several equity raises and we've done one bond raise as an entity. So with this rating in hand, we are really looking at our options to diversify our funding base. So you may see something come soon. Who knows?
All right. So just so you guys know, the rating scale for CariCRIS on the investment grade scale goes from A minus, A plus, then it goes AA minus, AA plus, AAA minus, AAA plus. So making our investment grade is a pretty big deal for any Jamaican company because it also has several levels below that. You have the B's and the C's and the not investment grade, what they call junk status. So it's a good move to see Barita being rated A plus by CariCom. And Ramon, since Cornerstone's acquisition, of Barita Investments, Barita has been on a really rapid growth trajectory. We've seen how far you guys have come in the past few years. Like, what strategies would you say were instrumental in achieving that growth? And how do you continue that? Because once you set the expectation for investors, they're going to expect that to continue.
Yeah, for sure. So I'd probably relate it to four things, right? It's a much longer list than four things, but I'll cycle through four real quick for you. So one is that very early out the gate, we decided to fortify the business with additional permanent capital. And so between March 2019 and September 2021, we would have raised over $34.5 billion in permanent equity, making Barita the largest securities dealer in Jamaica by shareholders' equity. So of course, if we have more capital, we have seen the power of a capital infusion in transforming a business's circumstances. So that has certainly helped, right? We complemented the capital raising with an infusion of human capital. I myself was a beneficiary of that. I joined the business in April of 2019, and many of my counterparts have joined Barita in the post-Cornerstone era. We think we've built an excellent team here at Barita, and they have brought with them a breadth of experience, relationships that has allowed us to build new business lines. Our investment banking business, for example, is new and is a part of the post-Cornerstone period, and that's $1 billion a year in revenue business for us now. And it also allowed us to expand existing business lines. So the team was another big pillar of our success. We also focused a lot on governance and risk management, right? So we got an A rating from CariCRIS from a credit rating, our credit worthiness perspective, that A plus rating. But we also moved our corporate governance score from CC pre-acquisition to A, right? And that is really reflective of the work that has been done to enhance the transparency of the business, to really infuse governance from the board level all the way down to the management level. And that has also been a critical pillar of our success. And we've complemented that with strong risk management. We have brought in excellent risk management talent. And we have also upgraded our policies and procedures. And we have an enterprise-wide risk management model that's overseen by our CRO, Jeffrey Romans. The final thing, which I think is apparent to the most apparent, is our brand awareness. We would have gone on a campaign to really socialize the Barita brand with the common person in Jamaica. And that has really broadened our customer base over the course of the last several years. We made it a point to really make investing accessible, and that appealed to a lot of people. So those four things, the branding, governance and risk management, the human capital, and the financial capital, I think are at the heart of the growth that we've experienced over the last 6, almost 7 years post-Cornerstone.
So now you have, and on that point of, just people knowing who you are over the past 5-10 years, you guys have done an amazing job in getting the word out. For sure, your marketing team has been top tier. So now you have a strong capital base. You also have an investment grade rating. What opportunities do you see in emerging markets specifically? I guess like Jamaica, we're an emerging market that Barita is poised to potentially go after.
Sure. So there are a few things. I'd probably stick to 3. The first is we are naturally looking to continue to diversify the exposures in our business, right? We think we have solid assets on our balance sheet, and CariCRIS commented on the strength of our asset quality, right? But we're continuing to diversify those exposures, right, as a key risk management tool. So we're looking at not only diversifying by asset class, but also by geography. So we're looking external to Jamaica for opportunities, right? That's number 1. Number 2, we think that there are excellent opportunities that exist here in Jamaica, particularly as we move into what I think will be an unprecedented phase, or has the potential to be an unprecedented phase of growth in Jamaica's history. We have deleveraged as a country, right? Our debt has fallen precipitously, and we're now at a stage where Jamaica is very attractive, not only to locals, but also to international onlookers and investors. And there's a lot to be done here, right? There is a lot of infrastructure work to be done here. There are excellent companies that have the potential through funding to expand substantially, not only their Jamaica operations, but regional operations. And we want to make ourselves very capable to participate in those investments. So, having an investment grade credit rating does broaden the range of our own funding options, and it therefore gives us access to capital that we can deploy elsewhere. The third thing that I would say is that, from our perspective, it's not only access to new funding, but it's important to us to continue to strengthen the relationship that we already have. And we think a credit rating and a credit rating of such high quality is, as I said, another point of validation to our existing stakeholders who constantly assess our business. That listen, and not a third party has come and looked at the business and has adjudged it to be strong. Right, so it really adds to the trust factor, and as you know, that is a critical component in financial services. So those are the
Well, let
two
me
things
let me
that
ask you this, Ramon, as one of the leaders of the major investment firms in Jamaica. I hear people like you saying, "Oh, you have all this optimism. We've achieved all these macroeconomic achievements, reduced the debt by so much. There's so much opportunity." But when you look at the growth numbers, it just continues to elude us. Like,
yes.
why isn't Jamaica as an economy as a whole growing? Because if I feel like it should be growing by now.
That's a good question, right? So I'll give you my perspective on the matter, and please, I'm no economist, right? But and it's a perspective that I shared at the JSE conference held recently. Growth is not incidental, right? It really is, especially when you're starting from a low base, right? It really requires a set of deliberate actions. I think from Jamaica's perspective, we now have an opportunity for growth, right? Given that debt is low, the government is credible, and again, there are a lot of investment opportunities here, right? Large scale investment opportunities. I think what will be important over the course of the foreseeable future is a real collaboration between the government and the private sector to organize and curate these investment opportunities so that they can get funded. Right? So, in other words, there are many opportunities to upgrade our infrastructure, our roads, our ports, our public and private real estate, to the extent that those opportunities are properly positioned and then acted upon. What will happen? There will be jobs, certainly a lot of jobs for locals, right? As our infrastructure improves, as our standard of living improves, there'll be increased interest from external to Jamaica, which is really where a lot of growth will come from. There are opportunities to improve on sectors that have been main staples for Jamaica, for example, our tourism sector, that could lead to increased tourist arrivals. And that's really where the growth is going to come from. So it's not going to be incidental where suddenly, because Jamaica has deleveraged, it just starts to grow. We have to, as locals, curate the opportunities that will in turn lead to and drive growth over time. So certainly Barita has a role to play there. We are excited. As I said, we're making ourselves even more capable to fund some growth. We have our thinking caps on in terms of curating opportunities that will ultimately lead to growth. The government has stated their openness and focus on driving growth in Jamaica. So from our perspective, it's really for us to translate all of that potential and capability into action, which will in turn lead to growth. That's my perspective.
Absolutely.
That's a high
Yeah.
level answer.
You guys have a tremendous role to play in driving that. A lot of people feel like, oh, it's the government that needs to drive growth. I
No.
feel like they have done their part in setting the macroeconomic framework, getting the debt down, and now it's up to the private sector to run with it, so to speak, bring in the deals, close the deals, bring in the opportunities, create the jobs, build the businesses, and fund the
Absolutely.
businesses. So we're
Absolutely.
looking out for that from you and others in your sector, Ramon.
Absolutely. We're ready and rearing to go. And to speak for my counterparts, I think they are too. So bring it on. I mean, there's a lot to be done here in Jamaica. And I mean, the investment banking, the securities dealing sector is very ready to play our part in driving growth in this next phase. We definitely think the capital markets will be at the center of growth in this country over the course of the next several years, given the nature of the transactions that need to be done. We don't think the banking market can necessarily do it alone. There's a large role for them to play. But as you know, the capital market really brings that level of risk-bearing capital, the equity or the quasi-equity to projects that makes the bank lending, the senior lending possible. So we are ready and rearing to go at Barita, and I think my counterparts will say the same. So let's bring on the growth.
Ramon Small-Ferguson says, bring it on. Let's bring on the growth.